City Council Committee on Economic Development and Tourism will now begin. Madam Clerk, roll.
Council Kadim?
Here.
Council Long?
Here.
Chairwoman Olivia LeBeau?
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Item 1, citizens' input. Does anybody have citizens' input? Item 2 are the minutes of the April 2nd, 2019 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Item 3 is a resolution, which I will read. Whereas the City of Fall River is working on a waterfront redevelopment plan to promote economic development and the arts, and whereas the gates of the city should continue to showcase the city's Portuguese heritage and serve as a resource to continue to promote both the waterfront and the arts, and whereas the gates of the city should be outfitted to provide the necessary electrical cabinets capable of handling electrical needs for any event that is held at this location, now therefore be it resolved that the administration, along with the Director of Community Maintenance, be invited to a future meeting of the Committee on Finance to determine an estimated cost of installing a 400-amp 12240 disconnect single-phase service with cost to include underground boxes and restoration of all areas within the scope of the project, and be it further resolved that the administration provide a potential funding source for this project. Finance. Can we send it to both?
Well, Finance Center here.
Finance sent it here. Okay, this resolution was put in by Councilor Kadim. If we could have the administration and the Director of Community Maintenance join us, please. Director of Buildings and Grounds. Facilities Maintenance, I'm sorry, the resolution by Councilor Kadim says Director of Community Maintenance. Councilor Kadim?
I just turned it over to the administration. I know they were supposed to get some additional drawings to us and do some additional, site walks if that and estimates, so.
Yeah, so we've been, as you have in front of you, you have a drawing. This is actually one from the state. So the drawing that you have in front of you is one that had come from the state that shows where they had put in existing services. As you can see, the red line actually represents a conduit for electric that was coming where the manhole is in the sidewalk. But that line is, if you can read it there, is a 2.5-inch line, which we could not use to do this type of service. We need a 4-inch line, as we talked in the past. We have found out since we last met that it is a single-phase service that is down there that could provide a 400-amp service. But when we had talked about we wanted to go with the biggest power we could, and there were some venues that were asking for a 3-phase 400-amp service down there. So with that being said, with National Grid, I'll be meeting with them at 10:30 on Friday down the gates, and we would probably end up having to put a transformer in. National Grid would end up designing that, but we would end up having to buy the transformer and the pad and put bollards in and around them. So we would pick a spot there where we could put it without it being unsightly. We'd maybe corral it with some trees and things of that nature. So as you could see on that with the red line, there are 2 additional black lines. One is a gas line and one is a water line. They brought that right to where the flags are, if you know where the gates are and where the flags are. It looks like that they've brought them right to that curb line there and ended them for the future. I know the gas company is looking, because it's been there for quite a while, to cut it off from the valve temporarily until we decide to do something with the gas line, because it is or was connected by the state, had it connected to their main line in Water Street. So they want to take it off there and temporarily just disconnect it and cap it, so we don't have a gas line all the way into the gates not being used at this point. The water service is there. If we ever wanted to do anything with the water service, a water line goes around. If you look on the plan, if you see it, this seems to be going from right all the way along the highway, following the highway and back over. If you look there, you can see that I did a proposed, we want to do with a dash line, the blue dash line, is we actually want to come out of the manhole with a transformer in that general area and run it right up along the sidewalk to come in and follow the radius and put up the 400 amp is where we'd like to put the 400 amp radius at the top of that.
So
We'd have,
What's new HH stand for?
that's handhole.
Okay.
So we'd have a handhole there,
Going
another
through,
handhole. So right down at the sidewalk, we'd have a 200 amp service, and then it would go to a 400 amp three-phase service all the way at the top with the disconnects. And on the opposite side of the gates, there's already a 200 amp service. So on both sides of the gates, we'd have a 200 amp, and we'd have a 400 amp three-phase service at the top. So again, until I get with the engineer on Friday, we get a final design, we can figure out what the costs in that are going to be for this entire project.
So is there currently no handholds there for the 2.5 inch?
There is none. So it's running along the fence line as far as what I get from the state, that they put it in and they ran it along the fence line, but it doesn't show any handholds or anything like that. It just runs underground. It's kind of a far run when you're trying to pull wire through there. Most electricians require a handhold
Yeah.
in a couple of midpoints.
Right.
It's quite a distance.
Okay. So you said 10:30, I'm sorry,
Yep, 10:30 on Friday.
10:30 on Friday.
Who is that with?
National Grid with John Dory. He's the senior engineer for National Grid.
And will they give you an estimate at that time?
He could give me maybe a cost estimate at that time. Knowing what we want to do there, he may be able to tell us the size transformer and that. We're definitely got to put a concrete pad down and would more than likely have to put bollards around it. But again, we would put some like arborvitaes or some bushes or something like that around it to kind of hide it and blend it into the landscape that's there.
And so where you're doing the new handholds, that's all grass, is that what it is?
Yes, it's all grass, yeah. That's why we want to stay in along on the back side of the sidewalk, this way here. We're not too far off of that, so that if they put tents in and tent stakes in that, they're not driving any of that. The tent stakes are 2 to 3 feet long, 18 to 20 inches down for electric, so they don't put it through it. It's not required that it be encased in concrete, so we want to make sure that we're out of a way where they would maybe put some stakes in the ground and stuff like that.
Okay. Who do we have design, is National Grid gonna do the designing of this, or?
National Grid would design what we would want for power there. The rest of it is just based on what we need for, we would get from our local supply house, that we're doing a 400 amp service. They would give us some boxes for the,
But they would be looking at code, right, or?
yes,
electrical
oh
inspector
yeah,
would be-
most definitely, along with our electricians and stuff like that. We definitely have disconnects, we'd have probably a couple of cabinets on pedestals. Stuff. We have to have a meter, we'd have a meter on the, right on the transformer itself.
Okay. There you go.
I just have one quick question, not actually relating to the electric, but I got a call over the weekend that someone had said the fountain is no longer at the gates. Is that accurate?
That is correct, they concreted over it.
When did they do that?
This past week before the festival of the food trucks.
And who did that?
It was in correlation with the committees from the Portuguese Feast and their committees to just level it and concrete it. They left all the curbing there, and that the fountain hadn't been in use. It was filled with water, it'd get trashed, so that they agreed on just leveling the top of it off, leaving the curbing and that, and they've capped it off with concrete.
I'm sorry, which committee did you say?
The Portuguese
The gates?
committee that does the gates,
Okay. Is that,
the contractor was Kate upon that went down there and
well,
did the
is
work.
it their decision to make? I'm just wondering, did the people that put the gates in, did they need to have any say in that, or?
It was a collaborative effort.
There was actually, Monica Souza was involved with trying to facilitate the decision there, and she actually spent a great deal of time and effort reaching out to each one of the members of the original committee. And of course, there's a newer group that's now involved with the gates, and I believe the majority, clearly a majority, I want to say 6, but don't hold me to that number, but the majority of the original committee was in agreement with capping it over, because they felt that's an area where stages could get set up and they could use it more as a venue opportunity as opposed to a fountain. So I believe there were probably 1 or 2 members who were not in agreement with the decision, but the majority clearly felt that it was a better use of the space.
The majority of the original.
The original
that-
committee, yes, and the new committee clearly was looking to create the space for the activities and that, so.
That's the committee for the Day of Portugal. They don't necessarily have anything to do with,
No, but I guess from what I understand,
that they
and
do
Monica
there.
could, yeah, there was people who were originally involved, and then there were new people that got involved with the Gates Committee, so it was, she worked very hard to make sure that she wasn't reliant on just the newer folks who were part of the Gates Committee, but that she went back to the original founders and reached out and polled them, and as I said, the majority were in support of the decision.
okay. Council Long?
Now, if we were to approve all of this, are we gonna have gas, water, and electricity on site at the gates in proficient size to do whatever we wanna do with it going
Well,
forward?
we do now, we have the gas and water there. The electric line that they proposed could be used in the future to, if they did something on the island where the flags are, that could probably be used for something. What we're looking to do is do something for a large venue, so we're gonna upsize and bring the power to the back of the gates. But what has been put in by the state could be used in the future for gas, for electric and water. That's already
Yeah,
there.
but I'm thinking of like comfort stations, that type of thing. Because I'm surprised that that was never put into this plan.
To do that for a comfort
Because we have a lot
station,
of people down, there was a lot of people down there. What are we using? We're just using the regular,
Porta Johns.
Porta
Porta
johns?
potties, yeah, porta johns.
if you can also see right there on the very top where I have proposed a new handhole, you'll see a green line coming in right by the circle where the fountain was.
You realize
That is
that's
a sewer line that's been
That's
brought
it,
in from
yeah.
the back line,
The yellow?
not the
Right
green
here,
line.
I see it right here.
Greenish yellow, you can call it yellow. Well, yeah, I'll call it green.
So there is a sewer line there, so everything's in place that if they wanted to put some kind of, a comfort station or something like that down here in this area,
Yes.
because I would think that that would be,
Certainly beneficial, yeah. And in fairness, Counselor, the original group actually put a great deal of money in that into the development of the gates, and I suspect those were the amenities that simply got deferred to a future point in time.
maybe a future point in time is here, I don't know. But,
Additionally, too, just at one of our prior meetings, because of the timing of it, we did agree that we were going to try to meter the use at the location, just to be sure that we're sizing correctly, so
we did
that when
over
we
the
finally,
past-
yeah, I think with the events coming.
Yes, the event's coming up, yeah.
Yeah, the one's
did we
coming,
do the last ones
the,
that-
no, and that was the food truck vendor. We didn't do for that, the one that's, I want to say June, next weekend, maybe?
Yes, next weekend.
Yeah,
That's gonna be a day of Portugal.
Yes.
yeah, yeah. That's the one we were going to meter.
Seems to be one of the largest groups
Right.
that are down there. We've had other ones in the past, but they seem to be the largest. So we'll meter them and see exactly what they're using down there. That will help us get us the design and the.
And you're gonna meet with them on Friday to come up with a firmer number here, you're saying somewhere between 100 and 200,000?
Well, we've talked about that, and what we think that the price would be, looking at what so far, what the cost is for the, for materials, going forward with National Grid, what a ballpark estimate without getting National Grid, what a transformer may cost, going by what we've already seen at the Durfee High School, that we've put in a few transformers up there. So kind of getting that, and then if we went with a contractor, prevailing wage and stuff like that, that's kind of where we could be.
Council Long?
Just, I guess to Council Long's point, since you're gonna be meeting with National Grid on Friday, could you also just, I guess, propose, just looking at the site, where, if we wanted to look at doing at least a bathroom facility, comfort station, whatever you wanna call it, where that would be located, and potentially a cost to it?
Well, what has been proposed is where we normally put, what we have, like the pavilions that we call it, that they cook under and things like that. That was something that was always proposed along that side. And we already have a 200 amp service over there that we could actually,
Which side is that? Is that the?
that'd be on the north side, closest to the gas company.
The north side?
Yeah.
Okay. So can we just get some cost for that, comfort stations, even if it's their composting stations? I mean,
Yeah.
they don't need to be full-blown, but if we can do a full-blown one versus, maybe.
That we don't have to have them come back
composting,
out
right,
again.
yeah.
Yeah, yep, that's fine.
All right, and then if there's no other, go ahead.
Council Pelletier?
I'm not that big. Oh, okay.
That's why she was giving you a seat.
Close enough to the,
Close enough to the microphone.
For the record, Leo Oscar Pelletier, 323 Peckham Street, City Council, sitting City Council. Okay, not to my colleague Sean, I brought this in, and I have no problem with this. It's just the speed of what we're doing. And Mr. Gallagher stated that he'd like to probably see it in place sometimes in July. And that's a problem because I think we're moving too fast. When we have other projects, like the library and the armory, that have to be fixed up too. And do we have a price? Did it go out for bid? Is it just the power company that's gonna give us a price? How does that work? And you do have to bring in an electrician besides that. That's what I'd like to know. Is it the electric company bringing everything in? Is it?
No, the electric company would actually just go to the manhole that's in the sidewalk. We can't go into their groundwork. So they would bring it to a transformer that we would buy, they would set on our pad, and then they would bring the wires from their handhold to that transformer, and then out of that to the meter. From the meter on, we would take care of after that, which would be our own electrician. So we have 2 electricians on staff that we can utilize for some of this work, all depending on what we're going to get into, where we're gonna dig, if we're gonna have a contractor come in and do that. Again, once we have a full design and we have that, we can make that determination.
How soon do you feel that you wanna wrap this thing up?
Well, I'd like to wrap it up by the end of the summer. I'd like to have it ready. Like I said, we have a big venue going on right now. After this venue, we can start doing a little bit more with, I'll already have the design work and stuff. Like I said, the big venue that's coming is one of the larger of the venues that we have down there, so we can meter it. We can see exactly what they need for power. And we want to design on the larger side anyway, so that no matter what type of event we have down there, we can accommodate with the power and things like that. And as we said, we can meter this separately where people could pay for their own power, because it can be metered, so you can see that what the cost is for that going forward. And again, like I said, when we have all the information, then we can know exactly what we're gonna have to get to work. And I'd like to see it done before the end of the summer.
You also stated that the cost wouldn't go over 100,000, and if you also said 100,000 is the cap, and then I said to you, well, what happens if the job's not done? You stop. That's not the case.
No, but again, like I said, going forward, we gotta wait till we get the full design to see what the costs are gonna be. Again, everything is an estimate, and we're trying to do the best, estimate we can. So once we have the full design, we'll know the full extent, how much work we're willing to take on, or how much work we can take on ourselves, which would dramatically drive the cost down.
All right. Now, who's doing all the digging?
Well, that's, again, it would be whether we could get one of the companies that are out there with these venues. There's a couple of big construction companies, if they'd be willing to help us with the digging. If not, I could probably even ask community maintenance. We have a couple of backhoes now that we've never had before, so we could probably utilize them as well.
Like I said, I got no problem bringing this in. It's just the time factor and the money as well, because we started at 100,000, maybe 200,000. And then we're looking for donations of people to do the work. And is your men capable of doing this?
Yes, but I got a master electrician and a journeyman electrician, so both of them are more than capable of doing this. We just did Ruggles Park, we put the wires underground in that, so they're capable of laying this down.
Okay, 3-phase, right? Not everybody can hook up to 3-phase.
No, but as far as this is the National Grid would be hooking that up, we'd be taking it from the meter size.
I understand that. So you got somebody that's got to plug something into a regular plug, that's a regular plug. How many people have 3 phases that's gonna go up there? I mean, 3 phases is a special plug. Some things you can't plug in a 3-phase.
That's correct, that is correct. But we have 2 200 amp regular single phase services, that's why we do the transformer. Because there's only a single phase in the ground, so to get the 3-phase, we've gotta jump up to the 3-phase for the transformer.
Who needs the 3-phase? Really?
They're
Who asked for the 3-phase?
Well, right now is the Day of Portugal group with
Yeah.
their stage. They're one of the largest venues down there that say that they need that type of power. We've had other events down there in the past. I used to go back, and we've had some food and rock group way back when that we had, that had a big band down there, and then it was all food and that. It wasn't a Day of Portugal thing, it was just a big group. So there's been a couple of different events that they've had down there in the past that could possibly use that power, and if not, we have the two 200 amp services.
It should be looked into a little more, because a lot of places that bring three-phase in, they gotta have special equipment to use the three-phase. And you got just the regular plugs and everything else, so be it. So I don't know, do you really think they need the three-phase? I mean, what'd they tell you? What is it for?
Well, it's not that, we're just trying to design for the largest venue that we may have. Why not? If we're already gonna do this, you know, if I'm gonna put a 400 amp service back there, single phase, I might as well design it for the largest that there is. I already have single phase, I might as well design it for the largest that we possibly could use. So that this way here, we're not doing this again, that we need to put that in, we'll already have it there. Like I said, we do have two 200 amp single phase services that if somebody didn't need the three phase, we'd be able to run with the 200 amps. So I think we might be able to still,
All right, so you're gonna get a general idea what it's gonna cost.
yes.
And then the rest, we're gonna look for someone to help us out, and you're gonna do it all the electrical work?
Well, we could do a lot of the underground work, stuff like that, the cabinets, the underground work, things like that. There might, like I said, National Grid is gonna be a cost permitting the transformers, the transformer base with National Grid setting their stuff, things of that nature. And then again, we can look at community maintenance, we can look at a couple of the contractors that are in and around, if they're willing to donate to do some digging, things of that nature. We have a plumber, so if we hit any water lines, we have a lot of sprinklers there, our plumber can fix that, so.
All right, so how much money do you have to kick into this right now?
Point of information, if I could. It's just a little frustrating. I mean, this council just voted last week to do away with a tax for 5 years on a building that was, year one was $120,000. Now we're gonna be concerned about economic development for a park. Okay, so
I'm just
my point of order is that we haven't even gotten to design yet, right? And when we're talking about who's doing the digging and all, we're not even there. We don't even know if it has to go out to bid. We don't know what the cost associated with it is. We don't know if we're just talking about electric. We don't know if we're talking about, comfort stations. This is all conversations that are being had in this committee. I get frustrated when we start now talking about money, when 2 weeks ago, we didn't care about money when we gave a special tax exemption to an individual that is currently on the tax rolls. With that, since we're in economic development, I yield.
Council Pelletier, you are welcome to meet with them on Friday
Okay,
morning
yeah,
at
yeah.
10:30.
I can do that. The whole thing, like I said, we want to get answers too, and we're all counselors, and I'm asking, because there is a concern.
My
That's it.
feeling is it's
That's
probably
why
gonna
I'm
be-
here. That's what I'm trying to find out. I'm not against the project, just asking, if he's got money, where's the money coming from? And they're asking the mayor to kick in as well. That's all.
I mean, my feeling is, it's probably gonna be tabled in committee tonight until after his
Yeah.
meeting, and we'll come
Like I
back.
said, I think it's good, let's put it there, they wanna come down, all well and good. I'm concerned about the three-phase, two-phase, and everything else, and all these questions should be asked. And it's not a project that's gonna take a month, 2 months, like Mr. Kadim said. Everything takes time, it's gonna take time. It won't be this month, next month, maybe next year, maybe late this year. But I certainly wanna know what's going on, so I don't have to have a problem later on saying, look, I think you messed up and everything else. That's all. That's what I'm here for.
It's fine.
Not to hurt nobody, to find out what's gonna be, how it's gonna happen, and that's it.
Mrs. Viveras, did you have a comment?
When Mr. Gallagher's putting together his estimate, he can certainly cost it out in a variety of ways. So the council will have the option of deciding incrementally, what does the extra, three-phase cost versus something else? And then I think that might help Council Pelletier just understand what the alternatives are, and then the council can decide what you think is in the best interest. So we can cost it out based on a variety of alternatives.
All right, well, I'm all set. I yield, and we'll watch the project, and hope everything works out for everybody. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gallagher, after your meeting on Friday, about how long do you think you'll need to put Could you let the clerk know so that we can reconvene this
Yeah,
meeting?
yeah, that's not a problem.
Council Long?
No, I'm just, with Councilor Kadim says, if we're looking at doing any kind of rehabbing of this area with infrastructure, I just think we should say, what is the maximum best use of this property? And let's make sure that we bring the infrastructure in to be able to do it. And rather than, okay, we're gonna just do it halfway, and we can't do this and we can't do that, let's do it for whatever we think is gonna be needed. And if we're not putting the stations in there now, but have it ready, so if we wanna put them in at a later date, we can put them in. We don't wanna just keep digging it up and digging it up and digging it up. If we're gonna dig it up once. That's it. So, again, this is just a planning phase. I know there's no money in the budget for it at the present time. We can talk about this. This is coming up. It's budget time now. It's a great time to be thinking about the projects coming forward. I'm not ready to, as a counselor, to vote for any new projects in the present environment we're in right now, but we'll see. So my thing is if we're gonna look at doing this, let's look at doing it at the maximum best use for that facility, and let's cost it out at that, and we'll go from there. I yield.
The motion?
Motion on the table?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.